Pada Ramadan tahun ini, masyarakat di seluruh dunia, termasuk warga Amerika dan Indonesia, sedang bekerja, belajar dan beribadah dari rumah. Meskipun kita berjauhan secara fizik, semangat kita tetap bersama dalam menjadikan bulan suci Ramadan sebagai momen untuk refleksi diri dan peduli dengan sesama. Saya Heather Variava, Kuasa Usaha Interim Kedubes AS, mengucapkan selamat menunaikan ibadah puasa.
Hi there, everybody. A big welcome to all of our online viewers across the Indo-Pacific region, and thank you for joining us for today's program to commemorate World Press Freedom Day. We are delighted to be partnering with the American Centers in India, both Dosey House Mumbai and also the American Center in New Delhi, Nepal, and Indonesia for this program, and would like to thank once again all of the speakers and our moderator, who I will introduce in a minute. The freedom of the press and freedom of speech are enshrined in the US Constitution and are an integral part of our American society and our democracy. This year and every year, we commemorate World Press Freedom Day to highlight the importance of this freedom and give our voice to journalists and activists who are fighting to uphold this right. In today's program, we will be reflecting on how the current COVID pandemic is affecting press freedoms across the region and how journalists, civil society, are doing their best to ensure that those rights are maintained. Our moderator for today's program is Sophie Sharif, an author, journalist, and talk show host for one of Indonesia's leading news channels, Kompas TV, which reaches over 20 million viewers across Indonesia. She's also a master's degree holder from University of London under the prestigious Chevening Scholarship. How are you doing today, Sophie? Thank you for joining us.
How are you? Thank you for having me.
I hear it's been a busy day for you, so thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
I think with that, I'm going to pass it over to you so you can introduce our two speakers for today. And I will see everybody. You're welcome. I'll see everybody online. We'll be moderating your questions, and we'll have lots of opportunities to get to all of the questions from the public. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. Thank you, Scott. Hi, everybody. My name is Sophie Sharif. I'm a journalist, an executive producer, as well as a political talk show host for Kompas TV, as Scott has mentioned earlier. And it is a great honor for me to be the moderator of this discussion commemorating the World Press Freedom Day, along with three speakers who are of high caliber, both in their respective countries as well as in the Indo-Pacific region. What we are aiming to discuss today is the freedom of the press during the global coronavirus pandemic. As the spread of COVID-19 is going for this month, suppression of media freedom, or perhaps some sort of self-censorship, is getting also familiar in the name of public calmness. Now, these practices are, we have to admit, stifling essential journalism, and in the end, will hinder the public from getting the correct, well-researched and critical news coverage, which might be crucial in a life and death situation. What we will do today during this discussion is that each speaker will give their presentation, and questions from audience via social media are being compiled by the team in America and will be addressed by the speakers in between presentations, as well as after all the presentations are already done. So we will have around 30 to 40 minutes for that, answering your questions via the social media. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker for today's discussion, Wahyu Diatmika, Chief Editor of Tempo Magazine Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, Tempo Magazine is an independent weekly news magazine focusing mostly on investigative reporting. It's one of a few media outlets in Indonesia without single majority shareholders, which made the newsroom very independent from outside interference. This is what we need during the pandemic. Beli Wahyu Diatmika, over to you.
Thank you, Sophie. It's a great honor to be here and share my perspective on this topic. It's a very timely issue. all of us are in this together. We've experienced this from the beginning, and now I think it's a really appropriate time to start discussing the future of our press freedom, especially with growing pressure and growing difficulties for media businesses and journalists around the world to do their job. I'm going to share my screen. It's a very short presentation. It's just meant to trigger further discussion along the way. So I've been working for Tempo since 18 years ago, and I start doing my job as a reporter in Surabaya, East Java. And today, this is a brief overview of what I'm going to share. First, we're going to talk about the infodemic. This is a term coined by the WHO, describing how the pandemic is not only about coronavirus, but also misinformation and disinformation. And then I'll offer some ideas on how to move forward and some of the experience, the work, the collaboration that we've been doing to address that infodemic. Then that will lead to our main topic, the tension between government and the press. So I'm sure you know this quote. This is from Mr. Tedros Adhanom, the Director General of the World Health Organization. And he was the one who said first that we are now not just fighting an epidemic, we're fighting an infodemic. With the coronavirus pandemic comes confusion, comes uncertainty. We saw online many hoaxes, uncorroborated stories, testimonies about how to cure the disease and etc. And we don't know which one are true. We cannot differentiate between facts and hoax, and that's a very dangerous situation in this time of crisis. And this is a warning from the UNESCO chief, Ms. Audrey Azoulay, when she speaks at the World Press Freedom Day commemoration a couple of days ago. Just as in war, truth could be considered the first casualty in this pandemic. So there's a growing pressure for journalists to stop questioning, to not doing their work. And it become more and more difficult, not only because of the social distancing protocol and all of this work from home policies, but also because there's a growing tendency from authorities to close down and not being so transparent about the data and what they're doing to handle this crisis. Let me just share this result of a research by Reuters Institute and the University of Oxford about what are the hoaxes, what are the types of misinformation happened since the pandemic happened. And you can see there's a growing fact check. This is a graph about the fact-checking articles around the world that is used by as sample by this research. And you can see that it's growing in numbers. And in terms of the types, you can see that there's misleading content, false contact, manipulated content, all kind of disinformation and misinformation happen during this pandemic. 59% are rake and figure so this is a facts that then being manipulated to mislead you to believe otherwise. 38% are pure fabricated content. And this is the type of person that spread the misinformation. 20% are mostly prominent person like celebrities or figure of authorities. They share 20% of all the misinformation, but because of their status, they have 69% spread or influence over the misinformation that they send online. So it's very, very dangerous. Now, this is an important slide because it shows what are the content of those misinformation. Public authority action is 39% of the whole hoaxes spreaded during the pandemic. So almost 40% of the misinformation is about how the government or the public authority acts or policies toward controlling the spread of the pandemic. And this finding is in line with the IFCN, the International Fact-Checking Network database, that also shows, you can see in the biggest circle here, the biggest dot, are governments-related misinformation. So this is the most widely shared misinformation. Other than that, we have about misinformation about the spread of the virus, the prevention, the cures, the lockdown, and so on. But still, governments-related misinformation is quite big compared to the others. I'll give you a couple of examples of this kind of misinformation in Indonesia. You can see here, this is one example of a fake news article. It's have the Indonesian president picture, President Joko Widodo, but the caption and the content of it is purely false, is purely untrue. So it is said here that the president will give life sentence for governors in provinces that misuse the assistance for people in need. He never said that. It's not true. This is also other example. On the left-hand side, you can see content about one of our coordinating minister, Mr. Luhut Panjaitan, and on the other right-hand side, you can see it's a quote from the North Sumatra governor. Both are untrue. So Mr. Luhut never said the sentence that mentioned in the content that said that he will arrest everyone or anyone who dare try to open airports. And the governor of North Sumatra is quoted here saying that he wants to open all mosques, even though it's a lockdown or it's a social distancing policy was in place. Both are untrue. So this is also about Minister of Religious Affairs saying that he allowed Taraweh Salat during the Ramadan month, the fasting month, and he never said that. And also you can see there's another misinformation from quoting the son of the president. So you can see there's plenty of hoax like this circulating on social media. And it made so much confusion. It polarized the society. And it's just very, very detrimental to the effectiveness of any policy issued by the government in their effort to curb the pandemic. So what do we do in this kind of situation? I want to quote Mr. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General. He said that journalists are key to countering the dangerous outbreak of misinformation accompanying the COVID-19 pandemic. So journalism obviously has a very important role to play in this very, very difficult situation. What do we do then? One of the role that journalists has to take is being a fact checkers. So we in the media, independent media, has been trying to produce impartial and evidence-based fact checking, because that's is what needed to confront and address this proliferation of hoax. We need to debunk that misinformation from the beginning before it gets, viral. So we have to prevent the confusion among the public by confronting those misinformation head on. But the key is to do that successfully is collaboration. We need to do it together because resources are scarce and time is really limited. And not only collaborate between media, but also working together with social media platform, because they are the one who has the technology and has the analytics to monitor where and when this misinformation is spreading. So this is a few examples. of a collaboration work. This is from IFCN, the International Fact-Checking Network, where Tempo is one of the member. So we have created this database of misinformation. Now it consists of more than 4,000 misinformation already debunked, and now distributed through WhatsApp chatbot, through social media, in order to give people guidance of what are facts and what are hoax that circulated among general public. This is several examples of the works that we're doing. So we detect a post or a video or photo online, and once we know that it's getting traction, it's getting attention, we will try to research it. We will go to the original source, make sure that it's fake or not fake. What are the contexts of that post? Then we immediately stamp it as false or correct based on our finding. And this is in Jakarta. This is a collaboration called checkfacta.com. It started in 2018, 2 years ago, when we were gearing towards the national election. Now our collaboration have consists of more than 50 media. This is the media that first starting it. We work together debunking misinformation. Once a fact-check article is finished and produced, published online, every media in the network can use it regardless of who produced it in the first place. So it's sharing content radically to make sure that we get to the person who influenced by the hoax and really give them the correct information. This is several examples of our fact-check articles. So you can see we give it stamp. We in the title to make sure people don't get the wrong idea of the article, and we also include the original post. So when they see it again online, they can immediately refer to this article and hopefully notify their networks or their community that that is not the right information. Okay, so. But the situation in the field, of course, is not always ideal. Sometimes things can get messy. And this is one of the factors that created this uneasiness. Since the beginning of the pandemic, the law enforcement has been taking a very strong approach, a security approach to handle misinformation. One of the spokesperson for Indonesian police force admitted that as of April, the police have arrested more than 70, hundreds of people in 70 misinformation cases. So this could lead to a lot of other problems regarding freedom of expression, because some of the time the case that are being investigated by the law enforcement are not pure misinformation. Sometimes it's just an ordinary person asking for more information about something that they've heard. And when they start posting questions online, some other member of the public will report them to the police, and they will get arrested just because of asking question. So this is a deadly mix between security approach and misinformation. This is a couple of incidents where, housewives, students, they just post things online, then get arrested. And what makes things worse, this arrest and this cases also happen to journalists. Increasingly, the police has been using the same criminal article, the Electronic Information and Transaction, ITE law, to target journalists. So Indonesia have a press law where it's forbidden for the law enforcement to criminalize journalists. So a wrong article should be corrected and the media should apologize, but that's not a basis for a criminal case. But lately we are seeing a trend where police still took these journalists to court, and some end up in jail because of the articles that they wrote. So this trend is really worrying because, as we discussed earlier, journalists has a very important role to play, but they cannot do their job. We cannot do our work trying to debunk misinformation and provide accurate facts to the public if we constantly get intimidated and harassed while doing our job. So my last slide is this message. I contribute this message for the World Press Freedom Day campaign a couple of days ago. I believe in time of pandemic, freedom of expression and access to information are more important than ever. Our governments have to be transparent and accountable. And without that, it's very difficult to mobilize social solidarity. We need social solidarity in time of crisis, but to mobilize that solidarity, we need an accountable and transparent government. So our job in the media is try to provide credible and accurate information, because that by showing where public policies works and fails, we can help shape public response. So people can react accordingly and to the right timely manners to overcome the outbreak. So that's all that I'd like to share this evening. I hope many questions. Over to you, Sophie.
Okay, thank you, Wahyu Diatmika from Tempo Magazine. So I will just ask one question that is already being compiled by the team at America. This is actually going to go for you. Several questions here, but I only give you a small amount of time to actually answer that. So this is from Ashwin Bansilal Shah. He or she is posting this from Facebook. How to identify misinformation, how to fight it on all online platforms, as well as how to share authentic, verified, and validated information. Wahyu.
Thank you, Sophie. So there's a couple of characters or clues that you can detect when you are suspicious about the content. First, it's usually exaggerated. Sometimes it's hyperbole, it's sensational title. If you come across that kind of title in articles, you should start to worry and skeptical. And then the next step is try to find a credible news website, credible media to verify what you just read. Try to Google or use the online search engine to find the original source for information. Go to fact-checking websites and also register to several chatbots already available on WhatsApp. WHO have a chatbot. IFCN also has a chatbot where you can just ask questions or just forward information that you think is questionable, and then hopefully you'll get the right keywords and you'll have respond immediately about whether that's true or not.
Okay, that's actually a very good, concise answer. I would like to again highlight what you have already presented, Wahyu. That's the first slide that we are not just fighting epidemic, but also fighting infodemic. That is a quote directly from the people up above of WHO. So that's actually why we are doing this discussion, because press freedom is very important during this kind of time, because it is basically the difference between life and death, whether or not people getting the right, correct, verified, validated, and well-researched information. So tension between government and the press is actually going to hinder people from getting what they are actually needing at the moment. Thank you again, Wahyu Diatmika. So our second speaker is Kemal Devbatarai, ladies and gentlemen, current affairs editor of the Annapurna Express in Nepal. A little bit of blurb: the Annapurna Express is one of the leading English newspaper in Nepal, which cover politics, international relations, as well as development. It is part of the largest media house in Nepal, the Annapurna Media Network. So Kemal Devbatarai, over to you right now.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Sophie. Good afternoon to everyone. It is my great pleasure to get an opportunity to be a panelist in these very timely initiatives. I'm going to present my presentations. Yes, before starting, then I just want to mention about the uh, uh, status of the vibrant media in Nepal. Basically, after the restoration of democracy in 1919, the vibrant independent media emerged in Nepal. Before that, there was the Panchayat regime and Rana regime, so there was not any private and independent media. And the Constitution of 1919 allowed for the publications of the independent media from the private sectors. In terms of, in our case, mainstream media are playing vital role to safeguard the civil and political rights in Nepal, and they are very much aware about the freedom of speech and expressions. Their role has been always vital. And now I want to mention about the number of the media outlets in Nepal. Around 200 television stations are there. There are more than 700 FM stations, and majority of them are the uh, community radio are the community radio stations. Similarly, there are 7,000 newspapers, uh, and there are almost more than 2,000 online news websites. The Nepal's total population is around 30 million. Compared to the population of Nepal, the number of the media is very high. In the recent time, there has been several efforts from the government to limit the press freedom. It is not easy for journalists to get government information. Few weeks back, PM Oli reportedly told his ministers and party leaders to stay away from the media, and this happened during the time of the pandemic. As we know, as the earlier speaker also mentioned, that during the time of the pandemic, the access of information is very vital. But in our case, government is staying away from the media, and they are less cooperating with the media. The decision of the cabinet are disseminated on the selective basis. uh, Among besides the COVID-19, there has been several attempts to contain the press freedom in Nepal. The Information Technology Bill, Press Council Bill have several provisions that aim to curb the press freedom. What in the context of the I'm explaining this in the context that after the promulgation of the Constitution in 1990, in 1915, we are in the course of the formulation of the new media laws, and the draft of the media bill, which are currently presented in Parliament, have several positions that has drawn criticism from the civil society and various sectors. The already promulgated act, the Electronic Transaction Act 2000, has been used as a tool to suppress the media, and several journalists are being arrested under this act. And as I mentioned also earlier, during the time of the pandemic, government has failed to maintain transparency while disseminating information related to COVID-19. Now I want to mention about the status of the social media in Nepal. According to the latest data provided by Nepal Telecommunications, nearly half of the Nepal's population access internet via their smartphone. The number of the mobile internet users has jumped to 14.65 million as of April 2019. According to the social media today, there are these are the figures that the use of the social Facebook users, Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn. These are the major social media apps that are being used in Nepal. According to media survey conducted by Sharecast Initiative, or non-governmental organization, Facebook and its messenger apps are the most popular among Nepalese. The study shows that the Facebook is also increasingly becoming the preferred source of the news information about the local and international happenings. As previous speaker also shared that it is also the case of Nepal that there is rampant disseminations of the fake news through social media. In Nepal, fake news and information are fast spreading via social media. With growing internet connections in rural areas, people are increasingly using social media. And during the time of the pandemic, some publications of the some print media and the circulation of the print media are hampered. So people are much relying on the social media. As people's access to print media is very limited, people are choosing social
Excuse
media.
me, Kamal. Sorry, I have to interject. We haven't seen your presentations yet. Is there any way you can share screen your presentation with us?
Yes, I thought that my presentation is now visible, but sorry, I will check.
Yeah, it's not yet. It's not yet. Sorry. Um, okay, it's not yet on the screen. Your presentation.
Now is it okay?
No, not yet. I'm sorry. Can somebody from the America
Yeah.
help Kamal, if
Is
it's
it-
possible?
Sorry.
I was talking to the organizer. Is there anyone from the organizer who can help Kamal with his presentation, the shared screen with us? Or should we just move on?
Sorry.
Sama,
Yes.
can you press the green button in the
Oh yeah, the
bottom
share
share
screen
screen?
button.
Green button.
Yeah,
Screen button.
share screen button on the lower side of your screen.
Yes.
The share screen one. Ah, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
you're good to go.
Yeah. Sorry for technical problem. Yeah, well, I was just talking about the users of the social media in Nepal. This is the number of the Facebook users, Instagram users, Twitter users, and YouTube users, and LinkedIn. These are the major social media apps in Nepal. According to social media, Nepal Media Survey conducted by Sharecast Initiatives, a non-governmental organization, Facebook and its messengers apps are most popular among the Nepalese. The study showed that the Facebook is also increasingly becoming the preferred source of information and news and information about the local, national, and international happenings. And as I also mentioned that in Nepal, fake news and information are fast spreading by the social media. With growing internet connection in rural areas, people are increasingly using social media. During the time of the pandemic, the publication of the print media and their circulations are seriously hampered. That is why people are more relying on social media for the information. People in our context, people who are less educated are likely to trust fake news they consume from the social media. In the time of the pandemic, the role of the independent media is very vital to curb the fake news. The established and trusty mainstream media has a big role to play to provide fair and accurate information. But in our context, even some big media house don't have the vibrant software for the fact checking, and in several cases, even the independent and the big media house are disseminating fake information and fake news. And in several cases, they have apologized for spreading the fake information related to the pandemic. With the beginning of the lockdown, and the lockdown has badly affected the country's economy, and there is severe impact of the lockdown in the media sectors. There are reports that even big media houses are laying off journalists, and some media houses are not paying journalists on the time. And if the journalists are not paid on the time, and if there is a big layoff, it would obviously affect the capacity of the media house to provide sufficient information and to fight with the information. There is another good point, another good development in Nepal is that there is mushrooming growth of the online media, which is good. But the problem is that many online are not responsible. recently, Press Council of Nepal, Press Council Nepal has found that the several online news media are spreading the fake news. That is why the Press Council of Nepal recommended government to block some of the news that they are disseminating the fake news related to the pandemic. But at the same time, it has raised the questions of the media freedom. Government, the Press Council of Nepal, whose responsibility is just to regulate the media and to uphold the freedom of speech expression and media professionalism, has recommended the government for blocking the news websites. Yeah, this is the continuation. Yeah, some online news portals are promoting fake news in order to increase TRP. And some cases, fake news has caused panic among the people. Similarly, dozens of the YouTube channels are engaging in spreading the fake news in our context. The online media are publishing the fake news, such as the fake death number, misleading headlines, and the news related that the certain vegetables, herbals, or certain medicines, local medicines can cure the COVID-19. These are the fake news that are being disseminated by the uh, online some online media. Yeah, there is also tendency among the online news portal in Nepal to copy the news of the another online. So if a single online news publishes a fake news, it is likely that the other hundreds of the online follow the same news and they also disseminate the uh, mm, uh, fake news. And it really contributes for the it really contributes for the spread of the fake news in Nepal. Yeah, my last point is that the way forward. In Nepal, there is a need of the digital literacy campaign to inform the people about the fake news and fake information, which is not happening at the sufficient level. Not only among the people, there is less awareness among the journalists about the fake news that come from the other countries. Mainly, that is related the news that comes from through social media from abroad. Study shows that. So, mainstream media should provide training to journalists about the fake news and fake informations, and it has been already late for the independent media of Nepal to install software to check the fake news. Currently, many big media houses and independent media houses don't have any software that check fake news and fake information and fake photos. And the biggest challenges ahead. In my point of view, the one of the prominent challenge ahead is protecting independent media from government control. As I mentioned earlier, that the even government is not responsible and the government is not cooperating with the media. Instead, government is creating pressures on the media. In our case, even the Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli is issuing some sort of warning to the media. For example, on May 1st, Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli said that the some independent media are working to create a political instability in the country. Before that, when some reporters reported about the plights of the stranded people in the various parts of the country, Prime Minister, in an interview with the government-owned television, criticized the journalist for writing the news of the stranded people due to the COVID-19, and this has affected the morale of the journalists in Nepal. So the first challenge ahead is protecting independent media from the government control, and the second challenge after the COVID-19 is that the protecting independent media from being collapsed due to the economic crisis. Because not only in Nepal, not only in other countries, in Nepal, what I'm seeing is that due to the economic conditions, of the country, some media are on the verge of the collapse. We have already seen that some online media are suspending their publications, and some print media are also suspending their print editions. And in the days, there will be more economic stress on the media, on the independent media. So second most challenge is that how to protect media from being collapsed due to the economic crisis. And the third challenge is that it is applicable to all newsroom in Nepal, making a vibrant newsroom to fight with the fake news. There has been some awareness. Some organization, non-governmental organizations are also launching some project on taking the fake news. But when it comes to the mainstream media, the independent media are yet to create a vibrant newsroom to fight with fake news. I think these are the three biggest challenges ahead when it comes to fighting the misinformations and fake news. Thank you, Sophia.
Okay, thank you, Kemal, for your presentation. I would like to ask you a question, though. From the things that you have already shared with us from your presentation, it seems that it's not only happening in Nepal, it's happening all around the world, that journalists are getting squeezed because of the situation. You said about government less cooperating with the media, and then people's access to print media are very limited, so that now they turn to social media. And the fact that journalists and media organizations are in the brink of collapse in some specific cases, and then there's laying off are looming, and then a lot of journalists are not being paid on time. And specifically in Nepal, how do journalists in Nepal face this kind of challenges that we have yet seen in our whole lifetime? This is something that it is a health crisis as well as a economic crisis. How do you guys, journalists in Nepal, deal with this, the whole situation of it?
Yeah, in this situation, after the outbreak of the coronavirus and the lockdown, one thing we should appreciate is that despite some hardships, despite some difficulties, Nepali journalists are playing a very vital role to disseminate the information related to the COVID-19. Though the whole country is in lockdown, journalists are traveling in the various parts of the country to collect the news, and they are working round the clock. And some of the journalists are still lacking the PPE, personal protective equipment. And as I mentioned earlier, some journalists are not paid on time. They are in economic distress. But despite having this, journalists are playing a very vital role to report about the news related to the COVID-19. And luckily, it is a good news that till as of today, all journalists in Nepal are safe and they are doing their duty despite all these hardships.
Okay, we thank you for that. All of us all around the world are definitely feeling the same thing. All journalists are getting squeezed between having to provide a very correct information for the audience, but then we also have to meet our own challenges of being a worker in a very, very difficult situation. Thank you, Kemal, for that. We do have several questions from the audience later. I will ask you during our question and answer session. But for right now, we have our last but not least speaker, our third speaker, Siddharth Bhatia, founder, editor of The Wire, India. The Wire, ladies and gentlemen, is an independent online news publication in India, which started in 2015 by 3 journalists. It is a non-profit organization that runs on donation. This is a very, very interesting news outlet that we do have here. So over to you, Siddharth. Oh, okay. I need to check whether Siddharth is online. Siddharth? Siddharth is currently out of the screen, I think. Okay, so Wahyu, you are still with us, right?
Yes, Sophie.
Yeah, I would like to have your comments before we head on to Siddharth about there's a lot of commentators that would argue that the way government handled the coronavirus crisis shows the tendency towards authoritarian. As a journalist striving for freedom of expression, do you think that this is actually the case? We're not talking specifically about Indonesia, but if you want to talk about Indonesia, go for it.
Sure. Thank you, Sophie. I think the remarks are not coming from only the media. It's not only coming from the media community, but even the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, also explained that, also remarks that human rights protection are in retreat during the pandemic because there is a lot of, as you said, authoritarian tendency for many governments around the world. So I will agree with that, but I will also caution that this is unprecedented. There is a lot of confusion, and we need to take that into account. But that's not, of course, an excuse for limiting press freedom, freedom of expression. I think one thing needs to be clear, that in order to survive this pandemic, we need to all work together, and we cannot do that if the government act in authoritarian manner and stifle freedom.
Okay, thank you for your response. Right now, we already have Siddharth Bhatia on the screen, everybody. So again, I would like to introduce our third speaker, Siddharth Bhatia, founder editor of The Wire, India. Again, The Wire is an independent online news publication in India, which started in 2015 by 3 journalists, and it is a non-profit organization that runs on donations. Very interesting. Siddharth, over to you.
Thank you, Sophie. I'm very happy to be here. Very important subject. I was struck by one thing when I was listening to both Vayu and Kamal, that some of the problems we are facing are so common across the region, and I'm presuming across the world in some ways, that we are all could be talking about each other's country. Government pressure on journalists, misinformation, and the big bogey of our times recently, that's fake news. Now, I'll come to fake news in a minute, but first, I think there is a serious disconnect between what journalists think they need to be doing and what governments think they need to be, journalists need to be doing. And the disconnect is very clear. Governments think journalists should at all times, at all moments, be part of some kind of national effort. And yes, we don't want to be spreading lies, but we are not part of the national effort if it means saying yes to everything the government says. So that is one thing I just want to put on the table so that some context will be established. Now, in the last 4 or 5 years in India, what has happened is large numbers of mainstream journalist publications, and especially television channels, have become nothing more than voices of the government. Now, this is a very unique situation because never on this scale have the media in India, which are very vibrant media, some 400 channels, news channels, hundreds and thousands of papers in several languages. And they suddenly seem to have discovered virtues in supporting the media. So on the other side, you have a few people who think that the job of a journalist is to report news without any kind of fear of rape. So this is the gap. Now, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen journalists willingly not just support the government on everything, but shout down those who raise questions. So, I don't want to bring The Wire into it, but we are blessed with having a lot of fans online who, abuse us morning, night, afternoon, which must be happening to you too. And we've got several court cases. Now, our situation is not unique. And my really big issue is at the moment that COVID has not made any difference, and nobody has said this is the time to be presenting the best, most accurate news, but everyone's continuing on the same path. So on 25th of March, there was a lockdown, national lockdown announced by the Prime Minister on national television. And he announced it by giving 4 hours notice, which meant that tens of thousands of people flooded the streets of the city, of their respective cities, and went out to panic buy goods. There was chaos. Whole idea of social distancing was lost for those 4 hours. But that same day in the afternoon, the Prime Minister held a meeting online with 20 editors of top publications, print publications, and said it would be wonderful if you could only write positive news about COVID. And it would be wonderful if the media acted as a link between the government and the reader. Now, on the face of it, this sounds very, very good because you want to carry information, but the government holds back information. So, for example, the government held back information that we had moved into community transmission. Very vital, because that can help people understand what the implications are. And that leaked out to the press. Second, the government went to the Supreme Court and said, we would like the Supreme Court to give order that any reporting on the coronavirus situation should be cross-checked first to the government before publication. So that means if our journalist goes out on the street and sees a family trying to get inside the hospital, you can't write it till the government clears it, or at least gives another version. You know what the implications of this are. So thankfully, the Supreme Court rejected that. So that was another one. Then there have been cases of journalists being arrested. And in our own case, my colleague, who's a founder editor, found that few policemen landed up at his house from 700 kilometers away. They drove all the way 500 miles or thereabouts to hand over a notice to him to say a police charge had been filed against him because the Wire reported a story and he tweeted it saying that such and such meeting of people took place in a neighboring state of Uttar Pradesh. Fortunately, he had gone on his round, so they missed him. And there's been a huge outcry. And the world community was very stepped in. But this is the kind of thing. 3 journalists in Kashmir arrested, 1 in Andaman, all because of some obscure, activity, and mostly to do, in one case, definitely to do with some phone call that guy made to cross-check. So this is our background at the moment. So when you have governments holding back, and when you have large sections of the media supporting the government and only giving their version, then you start wondering the social media, that is in India, the biggest platform is WhatsApp. It is known as the University of WhatsApp because it spews lies morning to night. Then you start wondering whether the social media really makes any kind of big difference at all. Because if I'm getting a television channel which is telling me government side and not giving me any other side, then fake news is coming from the TV channel and fake news is coming to me from social media. So before we even start news, very good question. What is to do if she or he wants authentic information? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Tidar, go on.
and you can see me.
Yeah,
So what is
we
the
can hear you and see you fine. Oh, now it's lagging. Siddharth, are you still with us?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm with
okay.
you.
Now
Can you
you're,
hear me?
yes. Now you're online.
I don't know what is going wrong.
It's okay. We all have that problem. You are not your connection is not at its best performance yet. We will try to wait for a little bit. Yes, we already got Siddharth online again.
Have you got
Yeah.
me?
Yes. You're online again. To continue.
Yeah.
Siddharth, I think you're not online at the moment. Can you hear us?
And getting very
no.
little support from them. Sorry?
I hope this is not part of censorship that we're talking about, okay?
Is that so? Are you suggesting that I'm being censored?
Well, not censoring what you are going to say. It's censoring the signal going through your internet. I hope we don't. I hope we don't have that. Okay, so we already have your video and audio as well, so I think you can continue.
Yeah. So I just want to press this point. I don't know what's going on.
Okay. Oh, okay. Siddharth, you're. I think you're offline at the moment. Is there any way that we could try the connection from Siddharth one more time, guys? Okay. So I already got Siddharth's video, but not the audio yet. Siddharth, you can unmute your screen. Yep. You're online now.
I can't see myself, by the way.
But you're already on everybody's screen, don't worry. Please do continue.
Okay, so I'll continue talking. So what is the journalist to do? So what most journalists are doing is not bothering about government briefings, because government briefings are 15, 20 minutes. So they go there, they get the information, but many journalists, many of them at considerable risk to themselves, talking to migrants because thousands of people are going back home, talking to patients.
Okay, so I think we should just turn off the video for Siddharth, just going on with the audio to make sure that we can hear what he has to say about this discussion. Siddharth, are you still with us?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just go with your audio without the video. No, we cannot hear you yet. Siddharth, are you still with us? Okay, so while we try to get the best connection with Siddharth Bhatia, everybody, I would like to just pose some one or two questions that we already have compiled by the team of Epidemic. This is actually a very, very good question for Siddharth, but I'm not sure that he is already online yet. I will try to get the next question first. I would like to ask this to Kemal though. Kemal, you're still with us, right? This is a question from Igor Carvalho. It is being posted in Facebook. The question is, most people do not confirm websites before they share them, and it will contribute to spread of hoax news. So how can we educate people who do not know how to confirm the authenticity of an online media or an online website?
Yeah, the only way we need is that we need massive level of the digital literacy campaign, government, corporate houses, civil society, and non-governmental organizations. All these vital organizations of the society should collectively or on their individual basis should launch digital literacy campaign. We should tell the people that you should think twice before sharing any information. You should see whether the news is coming from a trusty and the trustworthy news channel, or whether it is come from the popular newspaper or not, whether it is new. We should tell the people to think twice before sharing anything, and we should ask the people to share the news only that verify the authenticity of the source news. And the only way we should go is that the all stakeholders of the society now should come together to inform the people, mainly who are less educated. Now, if you see the case of the Nepal, mainly the uneducated people. Even the uneducated people are using social media at the massive level, and they spend most of their time on the social media these days. And when any fake news comes, they instantly share those news without verifying. And this challenge, the challenges of the fake news is more seen in the developing countries or the less developed countries where people are less educated, and the developing countries should seriously think about it.
Okay. We do have lots of questions coming in, but I want to check whether Siddharth is already online one more time. Siddharth? Okay, Siddharth is still trying to reconnect with us, everybody. Okay, this next question I will give to, I will post it to Wahyu Jatnika. So this is a question from M. Oh, you're online, Siddharth. Hi. Okay, so
Yes,
do you
yes,
still
yes,
have the leftover of your presentation that you want to share with us?
Yes, it will take just 2 more minutes.
Okay, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say was, and this was very important, I was around.
Siddharth, we cannot hear your voice. We will try again later, but right now I will pose the question for.
So what I was trying to say was that, sorry, Sophie, it keeps going off, and
it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah, I'm actually sitting next to the router, so I really don't know.
Okay, go on.
And I think your conspiracy theory is not valid. But what I was trying to say is, I don't know whether this has happened in any other country, but one of the terrible things that has happened in India is profiling certain communities and trying to say that they and their gatherings and their lifestyle and their behavior has been very responsible. And this message has come from the absolute.
No, we're missing your voice again, Siddharth. Is there any way we should reconnect with Siddharth? Okay, Wahyu, this is a question from MK Tomar from India, actually. Oh no, this is the question that I would like to take for Siddharth when he already joins us again online. But this is a question for you. Hikmat Buddha Ketri is the one who's giving out the question via Facebook. How can media? Oh, sorry, this is another question from Nepal. Another question from MK Tomar from ACND. Content quantity has overpowered content quality. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not hearing the question.
Is it for me or for?
Oh, this is for Wahyu. Sorry.
Okay. So I think, yeah, that's true. I think one of the reason why that is our media reality today is because the new business model for digital media that rely mostly on programmatic ads that will create revenue once you have enough page views. So that's prompt many online newsroom to produce as many articles as possible to get people to click on it, and then it will create more revenue. So I think we need to find, moving forward, I think we start to realize that this is detrimental to the quality of news. And we need to strike the right balance and not, sacrificing quality over quantity. I totally agree. And one of the possible solution for that is try to increase readers' revenue. So people start to think about, paying for news, because if not, someone needs to pay the bill for the newsroom,
Yeah.
and that will come from advertising or from programmatic ads. And if that ruin the quality of news, then all of us are losing.
Kemal,
So hi,
I
just
have...
to say I'm here. Just to say I'm
Oh.
here.
Okay, Siddharth. So are you going to ask the same question, or do you want to continue?
No. I just wanted to say, I was finishing that point, that this idea of profiling of a certain community has got very dangerous implications.
Yes.
And I would actually at some stage, I don't know whether it's happening elsewhere. And this is now where fake news connects, because fake news and WhatsApp messaging and mainstream television channels have contributed a lot. So this is, I don't know whether this is unique, but what has happened is a social unrest, social tension situation has been created. And fake news we are all dealing with, government pressures we are all dealing with. But in a country like India with so many communities, this pressure of trying to profile a large majority of people has got, and I'm sure all this news is reaching you also, and it has reached the Gulf, it has reached America, and I'm afraid that this pandemic is being used as an excuse for social tension. So that's what I just wanted to say. I wanted to bring that point on the table. Sorry, go ahead now. Sorry for all that.
Okay. It's all right. We can understand. Thank you for your presentation, Siddharth Basia. But we do have a very interesting question coming specifically from India. I would like for you to answer this question. Again, this is from MK Tomar from ACND from India. I would like to ask about the responsibility of the mainstream media channels themselves. Like in India, I have so far observed that big news channels themselves sensationalize hoax news and fake clips, and by sharing them on TV, viewers get misled as they start to believe what they see in the context of how pandemic spreads and the effects. That is dangerous way of disseminating illogical news. What are your thoughts on this behavior of news channels themselves?
So I think his answer is contained in his very question, because he has obviously understood that there is a lot of, I'm presuming it's a he, but it could be the reader, the viewer, because the mainstream channels are not just giving the government version, they are actively spreading fake news, actively telling wrong information, actively profiling communities and building up all this. And my solution to all this is usually the same. Just take your remote and switch it off. That is my solution. Obviously, you can't do that because newspapers are not reaching you. And what do you do? So really speaking, I think in a generalist way, I would say, stop watching those channels and disbelieve what those channels are. That is what I would say.
Okay, so you're actually asking people to stop watching sensationalist news channels, right? Okay, so we still have lots of questions coming in, being compiled by the team at America, but this is a specific question for Nepal. Kamal, this is for you. This is from Hikmat Buddha Chetri, posted this question from Facebook. How can media in Nepal play a vital role in to secure Nepalese freedom of speech, as well as the future free press in Nepal?
Yes.
The note on this is that he or she said that the IT bill at the moment seems to hinder the media sector.
Yeah, the people who is asking the questions is very valid. That the after the promulgation of Constitution in 2015, Nepal is on the course of promulgation of the several laws in line with the new constitutions, and among other along with other several media draft bills, information technology bill is one of the bill which is trying to curtail the media freedom, or which is trying to limit the media freedom in Nepal. Not only information technology bill, other media laws or draft of the laws on which parliament is on which there is discussions in the parliament, and all the media draft bill has drawn criticism from the media fraternity and the civil society. If we see the recent history of the Nepal, after 1990, after the restoration of the democracy in 1919, Nepali media is always playing a vital role to protect the freedom of speech, expression, and civil rights. Therefore, the media is very vibrant. The civil society here is very vibrant. So, though government tries to suppress the media, though government tries to bring new laws that to curtail the media freedom, there is strong protest in Nepal, and I hope that there will be strong protest in Nepal, and it would be very difficult for the government to curtail the media freedom in Nepal. This has been this is what the recent history shows, and this is what our vibrant civic space and civil society shows. So I don't think that the government can move ahead curtailing media freedom in Nepal. Thank you.
Can't hear Sophie.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, Sophie's having some technical difficulties, so just hold on for a sec.
Okay. I wondered.
Okay, so am I online right now?
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry for that glitch. Okay, so the thing is that a lot of commentators, some media workers as well, some journalists as well would say that there's this deep need of maintaining the public calmness, as well as trying to avoid pressure from the government when you're trying to be very, very critical, or you put out on data that might, some people might see it as some sort of fear mongering. What do you think about this? Do we have to put on the public calmness as something that we should think about every time we post a news, every time we put out data, every time we put out critical news coverage towards the government? Or do you think that there's some sort of a bridge between being very, very critical, being very, very open about a particular data and a particular news coverage, as well as maintaining the calmness of the public and to avoid pressure from the government, which we can see in a lot of countries around the world. I would go to Wahyu first.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, Sophie. I think this pandemic really tests the resilience of our societies and the relationship between governments and citizens, and also the strength of our civil society. Perspective or opinion like that, in my opinion, really underestimate the public ability to digest information and make their own decision based on true and accurate information. By not trusting your society or your own citizen, basically you taking over their authority and their rights to make decisions. So I think I would say that the most important thing right now is being transparent, because more than ever, what the public needs is accurate, verifiable, credible information, because we need to be able to make the right decision about our daily action. How do we keep our healthy? How do we prevent ourselves from being infected by the virus? So we cannot do that if we don't know what is the current situation, how many people are infected, where are the epicentrum of the spread, what are the government is doing, how do we get basic and essential needs for our families. So those are all important information, and I don't think the media can be blamed for fear mongering if they're doing their job based on the code of ethics and verify every information. Of course, there are not all media doing a good job, and we are open for criticism, but stifling and trying to control the news, I don't think that's the right way moving forward. I think you're still on mute, Sophie.
Okay, sorry. There you go. And what do you think, Kamal? Do you have the same response towards this issue?
Yeah, my point is that as a journalist, we always advocate for the freedom of speech and expressions. We respect the rights of the freedom of speech and expression of the people. So we should tolerate and we should accept the criticism made by the public about our functioning. Obviously, during the time of the crisis, we should be more responsible than other times. During the time of the pandemic, there is more responsibility upon us. Obviously, as my colleagues also said, that all media are not playing a satisfactory role. There are some media who are less responsible, and in some cases, they are creating some sort of fear among the people. They are disseminating fake news about the COVID-19. That is the separate part. But my point is that we should welcome the criticism about the media. We should correct ourselves, and we should be more responsible during the time of the pandemic, because the news we disseminate, even a small news we disseminate, can create a panic among the people. It can panic to the people. So during the time of the pandemic demands more responsible media. This is my point.
Okay, so you are in the way where there has to be some sort of a bridge for that gap between giving out information that are valid and well researched, as well as trying to make sure that whatever you are putting out on the news media is not something that would create panic among the viewers, among the public.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay, so I would pose the same question to Siddharth. Siddharth, what do you think about the sort of self-censorship that a lot of media outlets throughout the world is right now doing in order to maintain the public calmness, as well as avoiding pressure from the government?
I think this question kind of should be divided in 2 or 3 parts. One is that at no stage, I mean, this is of course a pandemic, but at no stage sensationalism by the media is acceptable. That is out of the question. Whether the government tells you or not, to sensationalize is not acceptable. Secondly, as my colleagues also said, as long as journalists get their facts right, get all sides of the story, go to the spot, talk to people. You're writing about a hospital, you should talk to the administration. So basic journalistic hygiene, if you're following, you can't always wonder whether your story is going to create panic or not. Now, let's say there is a cluster somewhere and you write about that cluster and somebody who reads it says, oh my God, my relative lives there. They might feel a little panic. But you have tried to present an accurate picture with official version and with the local version. So that's the second. But the other part is government leaning on you in a pleasant manner sometimes. As I explained, 20 editors were requested to give positive news. And if I was in that meeting, I would have possibly come away by saying, yes, I will give good stories and bad stories and heartwarming stories and troubling stories. But I don't think I'm going to be sitting there and thinking about, will the government likes it? That's out of the question. I think I'm not here to do the government's job, and I'm certainly here to also give the government's version, but worrying about what the government should be worried about is not my job. So I think all journalists would think in the same way, that we do our job ethically, professionally, and with all the built-in safeguards, and of course keep society's needs in mind. But the reader to me comes first, and the government's interests, which usually are equally selfish, they don't come first. They have their place, but I'm not the person to channel. Have we lost Sophie again?
No, you're not. Okay. Thank you for your response on that. It seems that different countries have different approach, be it from the journalist side, the media side, as well as government side. Because well, we know there has to be actually some sort of cooperation, government and media, because the media is the one that is going to contain again the news information that is given out by the government. Okay, so another question. This is a very interesting question from Indonesia, from Isia Ariandita. She posted the question earlier today via Facebook. This is for all three of you. What the presenters say about media owner who want to blow up news related to COVID-19 in order to increase viewership. How does this differ between Indonesia, Nepal, as well as India? I would like to go to Kemal first. Regarding the news media that want to blow up news related to COVID-19 in order to increase viewership. Do you have that in Nepal at the moment?
Yeah. Currently, there are two types of trend in Nepal. If you talk about the news of the independent media and established media or trusty media, they are not blowing up the news. They seem more responsible, and they are trying to provide the accurate information about the COVID-19, and they are not focusing on generating the income or revenue through the blow up of the news. But certainly there are small scale online, the online which is operated from the minimum investment, or the online which is less known, are obviously creating such problems. They are obviously blowing up the news. Sometimes they are providing sensational news, and it has contributed for the fake information and fake news in Nepal. That is why there are broadly two trends in Nepal. Similarly, but there are also very positive sides. As you know that in Nepal there are 700 community FM radio stations. They have been decentralized in the village level. They have reached in the village level, and right now the community radio stations who are more responsible are providing very responsible information, and they are providing accurate information on the COVID-19 and the people who don't have internet access and the who don't have access to the print media are getting information through the community radio stations. And the community radio station is one of the asset or one of the dominant factor of the Nepal's media industry. So basically, as I mentioned earlier, there are two trends, but the some media are playing a very good role.
Okay. What about in Indonesia, Wahyu? What do you think about the media that is trying to blow up news regarding COVID-19, just to give us tips, other than giving out, well-researched discovered?
Yes. I think first we need to really set the limit what is blowing up news means, because obviously all newsrooms wants to get their hands on the most exclusive and the most important news items, and if that blew up, meaning it gets attention, it gets a lot of viewership, that's then it's a good thing. But of course, it needs to be valid, it needs to be verified, it needs to be about something that people care about. But if what the question means is blowing up news out of proportion or sensationalized, then of course it's something that is unethical. So I think the media, as my colleague, the other speakers has explained, walk on a very thin line. On one hand, we need to, try to get people to, pay attention to the most important things, but sometimes people tend to sift towards what, really interests them. And sometimes, that's not what is important, sometimes it's not what is the most interesting. So I think that's always the tension in the newsroom. And as long as we can provide valid, credible, accurate information and still trying to make it interesting, that still fall within the boundaries of ethical conduct within journalism.
Okay, thank you for your 2 cents. The same question for Sudras then. Sudras, again, about the news media trying to blow up news just to increase their viewership.
As far as to give you an overall general picture, as far as the print media is concerned, of course, newspapers not coming out anymore, or very few of them. But when they are, we are seeing the print media in India, especially the better class of print media, is very, very responsible and professionally ethical over the last few decades. I mean, Indian print media is 200 plus years old. So there are conventions and there are professional attitudes. So they won't sensationalize. They may hold back, but they won't sensationalize. Television in India is a joke. Television news is a joke. So everyone watches it, nobody takes it seriously, and they do this, what you've said, morning to night. They sensationalize everything. It's loud breaking news for even the most trivial matter. You seem to be smiling because it's familiar. And they are all built on the same model of shouting the loudest and, saying the most outrageous things. It's like completely fake. And unfortunately, at this moment, I suspect many of them are under tremendous commercial pressure because advertising has dried up. So they need to keep their audience and reach out to them. So the short answer about television is yes, they sensationalize. Independent social media, independent online media, the better class is absolutely responsible. And our numbers are not huge, or we have not, there is a small increase, but we are not chasing numbers. And I think I would speak for the rest of my small world of a few 8 or 10 or 12 good sites. And WhatsApp is television on steroids. It's completely full of fake news, but they are irresponsible. They are not looking for TRPs. But I think sensationalizing, to answer the questioner's question, sensationalizing is absolutely in India a monopoly of television channels.
Okay, thank you for that. Well, I have yet to visit India, but I do see some of your coverage of television channels in India on YouTube, and that's very fascinating to use a mild
That's
word
a
for
nice
that.
word.
But
Yes.
but really, what Siddharth has just told us opens up a new question for me to all of you. If you have to do a self-critic towards your own media landscape in your own country, what would it be? What kind of criticism that you would pose to your own comrades, to your own journalist landscape, journalist circles in respective countries to make sure that we, the viewer, have a very reliable news coverage regarding COVID in times where crisis is just not about health crisis, but as well as economic crisis. I would go to Wahyu first. What do you have? What kind of self-critic do you have for Indonesian journalism?
Yes, thank you, Sophie. I think that's a very interesting question because most of the time we don't spend enough time criticizing ourselves. Introspection like this is very timely, and I think the moment also is correct because it's World Press Freedom Day, right? We need to start from ourselves if we want to improve the quality of our reporting. So back to your question, what are the most important area that I would like to criticize from the media? I think we need to listen more to our audience. I think sometimes we spend too much time talking among ourselves and really believing that as a journalist we are the gatekeeper, we are the most knowledgeable party in the conversation, while the reality I think has changed. Now it's a more egalitarian, it's a more flat structure society where people have different expertise, different knowledge, and different experience all need to be shared to create an even and rich conversation among the public. So I think the media can do more with listening to their audience, to their readers, to their viewers, and really understand what do my readers want from a news coverage, what do they really need to know, and act based on that, and decide your news agenda based on what your audience giving feedback to the newsroom. And that's also about engagement. It's about interactivity, and that is what digital disruption is all about, basically. Sometimes we talk about digital disruption as a negative thing, but with all of its shortcomings and its challenges to our way of doing things, I think one of the good things coming out from digital disruption is engagement. We need to interact and engage more with the audience.
Okay. Kamal, do you have anything to say about this? For the same question? Self-criticism with your own journalism landscape in your own country. Kamal? Oh, we lost Kamal, I think. Siddharth, are you still with us?
Yes.
Okay, other than your television news channel, what do you have for your journalism landscape in Indonesia? In India.
So I would say to my colleagues the following thing. I would say we should make every attempt to get the government's version, but we should also send out people on the ground and not swallow everything the government says, hook, like, and sinker. And we should be continuously asking questions of the government, not necessarily to pin them down, but to clarify matters so that the reader gets the full story. And I would say that to the government, that in these times, transparency is better than. Can you hear me? So transparency,
Yes.
transparency is always better in in the short, medium, and long term. So to television channels and the others also, I would say stop sensationalizing. Don't take your readers for granted. Go out to them, find out from them, and don't shout and scream. This is a time for people to be listening to soberly news, but even if it's really bad news, but in a sober way, in a understated way, and in a fact-checked way. I would also say to my professional colleagues rather than the bosses that please, it's hazardous to step out, but that should not stop you from doing really good field reporting. And in all your reporting, try to give voice predominantly to the people who have no voice otherwise, because it's their problems we are covering. For example, in India, after the lockdown, thousands and tens of thousands of migrants started walking to their villages. And so their voices needed to come up. So this is what I would say. Be professional, be skeptical, and don't be sensationalist.
Okay. Wow. Thank you for that. Is Kamal still with us?
Doesn't seem to be.
Trying to get a hold. It doesn't seem to be. Okay. So we right now at the moment we are discussing about press freedom in times of a global pandemic. But it seems that several questions that are being posted by our viewers, our listeners throughout the social media platform is also about how individuals, how the public can play a role in tackling misinformation. I have two actually questions specifically from that. The first is about celebrities who post fake info and then do not remove it when proven fake. So is there any specific is there any specific things that people should do in order to make themselves accountable every time they post news that are definitely fake or in the end proven fake? And another question is about individuals, how individuals can play a role in combating misinformation. Those are two questions that definitely has the same soul. I would love to hear the responses of our three from our three speakers. Kamal first. Kamal, you're still on mute.
Can you please repeat the question?
Okay, so there are several questions coming in the social media of America that is being compiled. It's actually not necessarily only highlighting the importance of news media in times of the crisis, such as now the global pandemic of coronavirus, but also highlighting the role of individuals, of the public, being responsible for whatever they post in social media. One question saying that celebrities who post fake news and then do not remove it when proven fake, do we have to put them in some sort of a tough spot, especially for people who are in the public eye, to actually post, well proven and well researched news? And the second question is about individuals. What can we do so we can have some role to play in combating misinformation?
Yeah, right. Regarding the celebrities, there are also some problems in Nepal. When celebrities share the news, they fail to verify whether it is true or fake, and their role is not so encouraging till date, because celebrities don't think twice before posting anything on the social media. Therefore, celebrities who are on the public eye should post only those information or only those news which is well researched, which is verified, and they should share the information only verifying from the other news sources. For example, if one online publishes a news, then it becomes the responsibility of the celebrities to check those same news in the other trusted independent news online. And if they find the news is true, then they can share. Regarding the role of the individual, then ultimately it is every individual play a very vital role, because before posting any news, they should verify, or if necessary, they should ask the media houses, or they should see the news that whether it is well researched or not, whether it comes from the verified source or not, whether there are multiple sources or not, whether it is the multiple sources is not adopted or not. Uh, Public should read. The problem in Nepal is that the people share news without reading it. This pattern
Just
should be
reading the
changed.
headlines. Yeah,
Yeah.
that happens in Indonesia as well.
They don't actually, they don't read the news, but they share the news. So my suggestion is that they should at least read the news before they share. When they see the heading and they find very interesting, for example, they see the heading that the number of the death has reached 50, then they suddenly share the news. Sometimes they feel that there are some people who are, and the problem is with that. The problem is with those people that who are in the upper position of Nepal, who is the leader in the society. Such type of the people share fake news very much because they feel that I'm the leader of the society. It becomes my responsibility to inform the other people. And once they get the news, they disseminate, they share the news. Instead of the general people who are in the power, people who are politicians, people who is celebrity, or people who feels that he is superior in the society. He wants to be superior by saying other people that, oh, number of the death has reached 100, and the coronavirus can be cured if you eat certain type of the vegetables. And they want they want to teach other people, but actually they teach the fake information. They provide the fake information.
Okay, so what about in India? Do you think that individual responsibilities should be upheld in regards of sharing news that might probably be fake?
So if anybody, but more so people who are well known and have hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of followers, if somebody posts something, let's say on social media, which is turns out to be fake, and it was done in good faith, or it was done because they actually felt that it may be true, then I think the best thing for them is to delete it or clarify it or say, I'm sorry, this is what I felt. And the responsible celebrity, as much like anybody else, will do it. But there are some people who are out to kind of create mischief, out to stir up things. And I think those people should be called out. Again, I want to say that there are responsible journalists who will then investigate it, call that person, and write about it. Now, if that person is a serial offender, what can you do? You have to keep calling them out. And in recent, there was a case in which one person said something truly nasty, and another celebrity posted to say this is unacceptable, and this woman is actually threatening somebody virtually. Twitter took it down. Twitter took down the account. So once that lesson is learned, then well-known people become a bit careful, because especially certain kinds of celebrities become very, very careful because they don't want that to be branded as those kind of people. But how do you do with people who are politicians, or people who are close to politicians, or trolls or something like that? What can you do? So it's up to social media, and it's up to responsible media to keep bringing it to the notice of social media and write stories about it. But listen, a fake tweet from, like it was mentioned about eat beetroot and you'll be fine, kind of stuff, or traditional medicine is better than other mainstream medicine. Those are dangerous things, and people believe them, and people suffer because of them.
Yeah,
and that can have consequences, So, I mean, unfortunately, our laws are a little lax on these matters on social media. But
I would like to have the same response for the same question to Wahyu. What do you think about individual individual responsibility in sharing fake news or a news that eventually proven fake?
Yes, I think there are several incidents that that we can use to also explain this kind of situation. I think a few days ago, YouTube removed the channel of David Icke in UK because the channel is reportedly spread false information, misinformations about the coronavirus. A few weeks ago, Facebook also removed a post by the Brazilian president, Mr. Bolsonaro, because of the content that have some misinformation in it. So I think it's an encouraging development. Social media platform are increasingly aware of this dangerous online activity when someone with huge followers posts misinformation. And of course, there are things that we can do as user. It's part of our responsibility to make sure that the public space that are the social media platforms are free from that kind of hoax. We can report that celebrity or influential figure's account, let the platform know that this content that they are posting contain misinformation, and you can include your basis or your evidence or link to trustworthy news website as a support for your claim. It's for now all of us to make sure that our conversation or public sphere are free from misinformation. And I think by removing someone's account, it's far from violating freedom of expression. It's just the greater goods matter here, and it's different from what I criticized earlier. Putting or arresting someone, charging someone with criminal offense, that's totally different. So though, on one hand, I don't agree with how law enforcement has been really heavy-handed in dealing with misinformation. I think what is more preferable is we take this into our own hand by, reporting those fake news account to the platforms.
Okay, thank you all for your responses. I think it's some sort of a common opinion that everyone should be held responsible for whatever news or information they are sharing, because the mainstream media is trying hard to make sure that we deliver accurate information regarding the COVID-19, and the viewers need to also have the responsibility to make sure that whatever information they share towards their public, towards their audience, is also something that everybody can rely on. Thank you, Kamal. Thank you, Wahyu. Thank you, Siddharth. We actually covered a large variety of issues in our discussion today. But the whole thing that we should really understand is that in the face of global pandemic such as COVID-19 that we are now experiencing, that we are now facing, we need more than ever news that are reliable, news that are accurate, news that are thoroughly researched, as well as critical towards whoever is in power, because that is the way we maintain our position as the fourth pillar of democracy, to make sure that the public has the right to verified information, to the truest information there is. Even probably a lot of governments in a lot of countries in the world downplays the impact of the coronavirus. It is vital role for the government. It is vital role for the journalists to make sure that the public actually is prepared for whatever worst case scenario that might possibly emerge in the near future. So thank you very much once again, Kamal, Wahyu, and also Siddharth. I would like to let you know, viewers, that several questions cannot be answered during this discussion, because we need to wrap up. We are running out of time. But for questions that are not yet answered, we will send them to the speakers for them to respond. The speakers has already showed interest to answer your questions. But again, apologies if not all will be commented by our speakers. Again, I would like to ask everyone to just pop up on their video screen. We would like to do a group photo of that. Meanwhile, I would like to inform you that all presentations will be uploaded online on America's website. You can go to aptamerica.org.id. Okay, once again, America, ATAMERICA.org.id. While I'm waiting for everybody to actually put on their video, we would do a group photo for this discussion for the World Press Freedom Day. Are we already?
I think I'm going to be without a video for some reason. It's been shut off for the last 10 minutes.
Unfortunately. But is everybody ready? Okay, so I see Scott and then everybody's in My America is ready for that. For whoever is clicking the button, I will do a countdown. 5, 4, 3. Give me your best pose. 2, 1. Okay, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you once again. I would like to say thank you for Wahyu Diatmika, Chief Editor of Tempo Magazine Indonesia, Kamal Dev Batarai, Current Affairs Editor of Annapurna Express Nepal, Siddharth Bhatia, Founder Editor of The Wire in India. Thank you, Scott Hartman, for inviting us to join the program. Thank you, everyone in America for doing this wonderful online discussion. My name is Sophie Sharif. Thank you so much for joining us. See you some other time.